Spent days making my sister a $2,500 engagement cake. At the party, she told me I wasn't invited and to leave. So I told everyone how she's lied for years, saying I tried to steal her ex. So for context, I, 26 female, have been running my own bakery business for the past couple of years, and I would say that we have been having a pretty decent run. My business is pretty well known in the area that I live in. We have also been thinking about expanding for quite some time. I am a professional and I have always had a keen interest in all of this. I have also graduated from culinary school and I have enough experience in the field to qualify as a pretty great baker. Most of the people in my family usually approach me when they need cakes for events and stuff, and I am very happy to do it for them. I even offer them lower prices than I would offer most of my other clients. The only person who has never had any business for me is my older sister. Let's call her Rebecca. She is 4 years older than me and we did have a good relationship earlier, but things just went bad between us a couple of years ago. Around 6 years ago, she had brought home her boyfriend at the time for Thanksgiving dinner. She had just started working at a new company and that's where the two of them had met. They had only been dating for a few months, but I could tell that she was pretty serious about him. But I don't know if he was just as into her as she was into him, because after dinner, I had gone out for a smoke and he followed me out and started flirting with me. I was not comfortable with it, so I did not entertain it and went back inside. Later that night, I pulled Rebecca aside and told her about how her boyfriend had been behaving with me, and she seemed upset about it, but did not say anything to me and said that she would look into it later. I did not think much of it because I thought that I did the right thing and now it was up to her what she wanted to do about it. But I don't know why, after that incident, she started distancing herself from me, and I would try my very best to keep in touch with her and to get her to hang out with me and stuff, but she just stopped one day and never explained her behavior to me. She even broke up with that guy a couple of months after that incident, but even after that we did not fix things between us, and even I started getting really annoyed by the way that she would constantly blow me off and act like she did not want to be around me or even speak to me, so I stopped putting an effort into keeping in touch with her. After that, things were never the same with us and we were civil to each other at family gatherings and stuff, but we were not friends the way that we used to be. It was not until a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years back, that I found out what had really happened and why she had stopped speaking to me all of a sudden. Our cousin, who both of us are really close to, let's call her Lana, 30 female, told me that Rebecca had told her certain things back then that she did not reveal to me at the time because she did not know if it was her place to say anything. But now we had all grown up a lot and she thought that she could finally tell me so that I would have an explanation as to why Rebecca did not speak to me anymore. Apparently, after that Thanksgiving dinner, when Rebecca had asked her boyfriend about what I had told her, he denied it and said that I had actually flipped the story and it was me who was hitting on him and trying to get with him instead of the other way around. And Rebecca had believed him instead of me because apparently, she had been quite insecure about me at the time and thought that I was capable of screwing her over. Of course, she did not actually say that she was insecure about me, but the way that she had been talking about me back then had made it very obvious that it was the truth. At least that's what Lana told me. And it honestly did make sense because for the longest time, I had only been Rebecca's dorky little sister, but after that, I became my own person and that was going to be a little threatening for her, especially when her boyfriend was hitting on me. It was really hurtful for me that she had believed some random guy over me just because she needed a reason to hate on me and make me look like the bad guy just for being honest with her and refusing to live in her shadows all my life. Lana had consoled me and told me that it was not my fault, but even then, it was really upsetting for me back then and I don't think I ever really got over any of it. I had just believed that Rebecca and I were close enough not to let these kinds of petty things get in the way of our relationship, but obviously, that was a one-sided expectation and she was actually just looking for any excuse to get rid of me, and then she could freely talk badly about me to other people without feeling guilty about it. At the point, when I found out about all of this, it had already been way too long and Rebecca and I had stopped talking a long time before any of that was even revealed to me, so at the time it did not seem worth it to confront her about it and try to make things right because it was just too late and we had all moved on in life. Rebecca and I had already not been on speaking terms with each other for almost 3 years when I found out, and even Lana had distanced herself from her, but that was because both of them were busy with their own life and not because of some fight, unlike us. Rebecca was busy because she was pregnant at the time, and that was another reason why I did not think it was worth it to confront her and bring up all these things from the past, because that would just lead to a lot of unnecessary stress that could easily be avoided by just sweeping it all under the rug and not speaking of it. She had been dating her now fiancé, David, for a year at that time, and I had started my business when her son was around 5 months old. I'm not saying that it was necessary for everybody from my family to approach me whenever they needed cakes for any event, but I thought it would be nice if people did that, and in spite of all the unresolved conflicts between us, I still expected Rebecca to approach me when she would require a cake for her son's birthdays because his family. That was literally the least that she could do for me, but I was let down yet again. I expected people to support me in my new business, and most people from my family did. Even people who were acquaintances and not even friends of mine made it a point to buy from me, but it was just Rebecca who would never have any sort of business with me, and it just felt really bad and insulting. The weird part of all of this was that I would always be invited to her son's birthdays and she would always have some extravagant cake from some other bakery. And yet, My mother would always ask me to attend even though I did not feel comfortable there because she thought it was important for us to at least put up a united front amongst people as a family. So I went on attending my nephew's birthday parties for the past 3 years, and I would always be subjected to a bunch of questions from a select few nosy family members about the cake, and I would be forced to address the issue and tell them that the cake was actually not mine and Rebecca got it from someplace else. And they would always relish the opportunity to hear that and smile smugly about the drama. It was just getting really sickening, and I was really tired of having the same thing happen at every year's party, so this year, I decided to skip the event and stay at home because I just did not care about appearances anymore, at least not as much as I did when I was 23. My mother was obviously very upset about it, but my dad did not seem to care, and I don't think it made a difference to my sister either. She did not seem any worse for it at the party because I saw the pictures online, but I guess that just gave her the perfect excuse to drop the act of having a civil relationship with me and really just fully start avoiding and hating me. After I skipped her son's birthday this year, she blocked me on every form of social media, and I was honestly fine with it because it was not like we were friends anyway, and she had made it very clear to me that the only reason I was even invited to any of her family's events was because our mother wanted us to at least be civil to each other and put up a refined front, instead of just being cold to each other openly. That was almost 5 months ago, and we have not had any contact since then. There were a few weddings and events that we had to attend in between, but unlike earlier, when we at least used to greet each other whenever we would run into one another at these events, we did not do so anymore. It was very obvious that we were not on speaking terms with each other anymore, and I did not mind it because we were not friends. She was the one who had a problem with me, so she could ignore me all that she wanted to. I just did not care anymore. I had given up any hope of us ever having a good relationship ever again, but then she finally unblocked me a couple of weeks ago and reached out to me personally. I thought that she was going to finally address all the problems that we had been having for the past couple of years. I didn't even expect her to apologize, but just to acknowledge that there was something wrong with the way we had been treating each other. But she did not do anything of the sort and instead told me that she had an order for me. I knew what that was about because I had heard from a couple of people that she was engaged now, and David had finally proposed after 4 years of being together, and they were going to get married in a couple of months. So I figured that maybe she was reaching out to me to ask me to make her a cake for her engagement party, and I was right. She did not even say please or anything to make her message sound polite, and it was really weird because no other client would ever speak to me like that because it's just rude. I'm going to attach the message that she sent to me so that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I need a 5-tier cake for my engagement party this weekend. Let me know the price tonight. That was it. No, thank you and no pleases. But nevertheless, I asked her to elaborate on the kind of cake that she wanted and responded to her like I would to any other client, and chose to deal with it in a professional manner because at the end of the day, this was business and I was not going to let my personal equation with her get in the way of that. She expanded and explained to me the exact sort of cake that she wanted, and then I let her know that the price would be around $1,200 since the kind of preparation that she wanted was going to be quite elaborate and it was going to take me a while to prepare everything. And she told me that it was way too much for a cake like that and that I needed to lower my price. I told her that this was the price that I was quoting because she was family and I was giving her a discount, but otherwise, I probably would have charged a bit more for a cake like that. I also told her that I was not even charging her for the delivery costs, so this was really as low as I could go and I could not give her a lower price without incurring losses for myself. I was also accepting this order, but under usual circumstances, I would not have accepted such a huge order with just a week's notice because any cake that is above 2 tiers and so elaborate, I usually require the orders to be placed 2 weeks prior to the event. So I was already making a lot of allowances for her and I was going above and beyond, and that's why I was not willing to reduce the price even more. I explained all of this to her and she did not seem happy about it, but she did not cancel the order either. So I went through with everything, and 2 days ago, I finally headed over to the venue to deliver the cake. My assistant and I delivered the cake about half an hour before everybody started arriving, and Rebecca actually seemed very impressed with my work and even told me that she was happy with the way that the cake had turned out and was reasonably nice to me, and I was happy about it. Now usually, when I am done with the delivery and I have made sure that everything is in its place, I leave because I'm done with my job, but I just assumed that I could stay because I was literally her sister and I was family, so she was obviously not going to treat this like a purely business deal. Besides, we had a pretty good run while we were discussing the cakes and everything for those few days before the event, and I thought we were on good terms for a while, but I guess that was a huge mistake on my part because clearly, that was not the case and I felt absolutely humiliated later. My assistant left and went back to the store, so I stayed for a couple of minutes and a few people started trickling in. Rebecca had taken the cake and we had placed it on the table that she wanted it to be presented on, so we were standing there, and right before she was about to leave to welcome her guests, she turned around and asked me what I was still waiting for, and I was really confused, so I did not say anything, and in the silence that followed, she told me that she was thankful for the cake but I was not actually invited to the event and this was just a professional thing. So she would really appreciate it if I made myself scarce, because otherwise, everybody would only be talking about the two of us and speculating about whether we were fixing our relationship or not, and this was hardly the time for any of that because that day was meant to celebrate her and her fiancé, so she did not want me there. After that little speech, I felt so small and humiliated that I almost left, but then I saw my parents coming in and they didn't even notice me standing by. I don't blame them for it, but I don't know why that just set me off. Probably because I felt like I had been asked to make that cake for her, only so she could insult me, and seeing my parents made me feel like this was a deliberate attempt from her end to remind me that she did not consider me family, even though I did and had even given her a discount and gone out of my way to make everything convenient for her. I felt terrible, so I decided to get back at Rebecca for insulting me that way. That is where I might have been the because I kind of decided to make a speech at the event and it was not a nice one. I grabbed the nearest glass of wine and decided to draw everyone's attention to me before I made a quick little toast and let people know exactly how I felt about her because I was really angry and I was not thinking straight. So I cleared my throat and announced that I had something to say, and then all eyes were on me, and most people were surprised to even see me there because everybody knew about the kind of relationship that I had with Rebecca. But I was not going to be shy now and keep my mouth shut because I had finally had it, and even though I could see mouthing the word shut up at me, I still continued with my speech. I started off by telling everybody how she and I were actually close before, but then she suddenly decided that she was going to be jealous and insecure of me one day and started being a total jerk to me, even though it was not my fault. And then I narrated the whole incident that took place at the Thanksgiving dinner 6 years ago and how she stopped speaking to me because of her boyfriend at the time, who did not even speak to her anymore after a couple of months. But she only wanted a reason to hate me, and I had served that to her on a silver platter by being honest with her. Then I went on to talk about how she had blocked me everywhere after I did not attend her son's birthday party this year, and even brought up how some of the people present at that party were the people who were responsible for it because they were the ones who made it a point to always bring up how she did not order any cakes from me because of our strained relationship. At least those people had the day to look ashamed at that point, but I then went on to tell people how she had contacted me a couple of days ago and I had gone out of my way to arrange everything for her, and in spite of that, she had told me that I was not invited to her anniversary party. And the worst part was that she had not even paid me for the cake yet, and I had even been fine with that. She told me that I was not even invited to the party because usually I do not accept orders from clients who do not pay in advance. I then called her a bunch of names that I had been holding back for literally ages and then stormed out of the venue and drove back to my store. I was furious about the way things had turned out that day and did not want to speak to anyone, so I turned my phone off and tried to calm down because I hated everyone at that moment. It was not until later that night that I decided to finally check my phone because I had calmed down and I felt ready to talk to people. I had expected my parents to reach out to me for obvious reasons, but I did not think that they would actually be on Rebecca's side on this. Maybe my mother, but definitely not my father, and I was quite surprised to find out that both of them believed that what I did was completely unprofessional and uncalled for, and I should publicly apologize to her because I totally ruined her party, and it was really unfair to air our dirty laundry like that in front of everybody because it was not just family but also a couple of her friends and colleagues who were present there. I genuinely thought that both of them were being completely unreasonable, and I decided to call them up to speak to them. I guess I was still pretty upset about everything that had happened that day, so the second that they answered the call, I started yelling at them and told them that there was no way on earth that I was going to apologize to Rebecca because what she did was humiliating and she had no right to treat me like that. And they told me that they could understand where I was coming from, but I still felt humiliated. Still did not excuse what I did because the way she had insulted me was wrong, but at least it was not so public, and what I did to her was quite public and it portrayed all of us in a bad light. My father told me that I should have at least waited until the event was over to confront her, and at that point, whatever I said, they would have supported me, but they could not support this, and they think that it is necessary for me to issue a public apology because what I did was just not okay. And I did not agree with that, so I got into a fight with my father as well, and now nobody from the family is talking to me anymore. It has come to a point where I am forced to consider that maybe I did do something wrong and my actions were not justified. I have also been thinking about this in a professional capacity, and maybe it was a bad look for me because clearly, she had only meant for this to be a purely business deal, but I went out of my way to treat her like family. I guess I should have also known that she only wanted my professional services, and I should have treated her like I would any other client, instead of going above and beyond. I feel like I have been played for a fool, and even making that stupid little toast did not make me feel any better, and I think it made my relationship with my parents worse, because now even they want to talk to me and tell, and unless I apologize to Rebecca. It feels like this whole experience has been a total loss for me, and I just don't even know how to deal with this or go ahead now, because while I don't mind speaking to Rebecca again, I don't want that to be the case with my parents because I really do love them and I would definitely want to be in touch with them. So do you guys think that I should apologize to Rebecca and just get it over with? Ida for ruining my sister's engagement party after she asked me to bake her an expensive cake, but then she told me that I was not even invited? Update 1. So, a couple of days ago, I decided that I was going to apologize to Rebecca because I just wanted this to be over. I honestly don't even care if she deserved that apology or not, but I just wanted to end this and be back on good terms with my parents at least, so I had made up my mind and I was going to apologize to her. It had been 5 days since everything had happened at the party and my parents had not been speaking to me for those 5 days. But the day that I was about to apologize, my dad reached out to me and told me that he was sorry for reacting the way that he did that day. He told me that he was apologizing for the way that both my mother and he had spoken to me after the party that day because they had not even thought about how I must have felt and constantly kept bringing up how I had ruined the party and my behavior had left a bad impression on the people who had been invited. But then they really thought about it and realized that I was not the kind of person who would just lose their mind over anything and everything, and it must have taken a lot for me to feel that way and react the way that I did. They were not saying that my behavior was necessarily acceptable all of a sudden, but they were sorry that they had been invalidating my feelings just because they thought that it was more important to be perceived as a happy and healthy family, instead of actually trying to be one. So now they wanted to talk to me and really get to the bottom of how I had been feeling and why I did what I did. That day, neither of us had really been listening to the other, and that's why there were so many misunderstandings, and we ended up not speaking to each other for 5 days. They told me that they had already spoken to Rebecca and she was going to pay me the money in a couple of days, and they had heard her side of the story, but now they wanted to hear my side. So I told them that I had just felt really bad that I had treated her like family and made so many allowances for her, and she knew it, but even that was not enough for her to treat me with basic human decency. I felt used and betrayed when she told me that I was not even invited and she wanted me to leave, which is why I had such a strong reaction. I do regret my outburst, but it was long overdue and I don't think I owe her an apology. So my parents told me that they can understand how I felt and they don't think that it's their place to forgive me, but it's not their place to hold it against me either. Because this is between me and Rebecca, and they believe that we can sort it out on our own if we want to and don't want to be a part of this anymore, and honestly, I respect that. So at least now things are clear between my parents and me, and as for Rebecca, I don't really know what's going to happen there, but I just hope that she pays me the money that is due. Update 2. So it has been 1.5 weeks since her engagement party, and today, I finally received the payment, but I only received $1,000, and she told me that she had deducted what she thought was necessary because of my behavior at the party, and she did not believe that I deserved to be paid the full amount after what I had done. And I guess I can respect that, because if I was in her place, I probably would have done the same thing. I also don't want to talk to her again or have any sort of interaction with her because I'm just done and I want to get over this as soon as I can. There will be more clients in the future and I can always just recover the money, but I won't be able to recover my mental health and the time that I will lose in trying to talk to her and make her see sense, so I think we are all better off not engaging. My parents and I are back to normal and it's like that little blip did not even happen, so that's great. Update 3. Hi. So Rebecca got married a couple of days ago and I was obviously not invited, but it's fine because I don't think I would want to be a part of anything that includes her, and I think we can say the same for her when it comes to me. My parents did attend and I know that they had a fun time, but they did not speak to me about it and I really appreciate that. Even my mother, who had a really difficult time understanding earlier that my sister and I did not get along anymore, respected the fact that she and I don't want to speak to each other or hear about each other, and I think it's just a given now that we don't get along. We are back to ignoring each other at family events, and I think that's what is for the best in the long run. I do wish her a lot of happiness and success in her new life, and I hope that we can someday reconcile, but honestly, I don't really care if that does not end up happening. My business is doing well and I am happy. My parents and I have a good relationship, and I do have a sister, it's just not my biological one, and I'm actually talking about Lana, who has been there for me for the past couple of days as well. And I have great friends and coworkers, I could not ask for more.